Are today at the Treasure Island Market with Neal from Bad Art Inc. So how are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm very well, thank you.
Good. So can you tell us what is Bad Art Inc?
Bad Art Inc. originally came from one of my favorite inspirations in street artists is Banksy. And there's a famous quote about whether there's such a thing as bad art or not. So I thought I'd use the phrase and say bad art.
So bad art becomes good art.
Exactly. That's the idea.
What we have today. So this is really interesting work here. So can you walk us through how you got
how did you get started?
How did you get started on something like this type of art?
This is so there was a question. So this is in Treasure Island in San Francisco.
Yeah.
And these are artwork from Neal over here. He has his website online
at badartinc.com.
Badartinc.com. So basically, he is just presenting.
So do you sell all these on your website directly?
Yes, yes. The resin pieces are special one-off pieces, but all the other pieces are on.
These are all, so you sell the original, you sell
the canvas pieces are Stencil, so I reproduce them, but they're all limited edition, numbered and signed, and the resin pieces are just one-off pieces.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, no, I got started because, obviously I'm English. I came over here, and by the time my green card came through, it was October 2008, and I used to work in cell phone technology, but yeah, by the time my visa came through, 1 million people lost their jobs that month. And I looked for work everywhere, I couldn't find anything, then found I live in LA or Venice Beach. So I found a place to sell something, so I needed to make something. I've done street art photography for most of my life and thought I'd have a go at making art and selling it. So far it seems to get a good response.
And like, what was the genesis of why bad art?
I'd say bad art was from a Banksy quote.
Okay.
It's the idea as well as I'd rather have people hate my work or love my work. I think there's nothing worse if you're an artist than your work just being or being fine. I hate that.
Yeah.
If you don't love it or hate it, then it doesn't really invoke an emotional response.
And did you say you've been doing art for a while, since you were a child? Or
oh, just photography. I've always loved photography. I've travelled, I spent a year around Australia, a year around Asia, most of Europe, so photography is just something I've always done, and street art's something I've always loved.
Oh, I see.
So once more, you can find Neal at badartinc.com. That's badartinc.com.
Do you sell anywhere else besides your website? Do you use like a marketplace?
Oh, he's going to be here on the flea market.
I'm on Instagram and Facebook, but
social media.
Other than my website, that's the main place I sell.
So yeah, this is the Treasure Island Flea Market. He's here for the weekend. He has his garage where he works in LA. So this is the Treasure Island Flea Market.
And what type of paint, or what type of are these?
They're all spray paint and stencil. I say the base paints. I found out that, but it sounds really weird. I know everyone loves Montana spray paint, but it's really expensive. So I actually found one of my favorite stores is Home Depot. Their Home Depot Rust-Oleum paint is actually, it covers really well, and for doing the bases, it's only $3 a can.
So his website is again badartinc.com. That's badartinc.com.
And is there, out of all the pieces here, let's walk through a couple of your.
Yeah, well, so these are two of my favorite pieces. The Rubik's Cube one is called Ignorance is Bliss.
Sorry, how much is for the keep calm?
90. I do a flat price on all my artwork. Some are a lot more complicated than others, like the keep calm's a single layer, compared to the Woman Falling Off the Bridge, which is a 15-layer stencil. But I do a flat price, then when someone comes to buy it, they buy what they like, not what they can afford.
So it's basically $90?
Yeah, it's somewhere between $90 to $100.
Can you show his face? That's Neal over here.
Hey guys.
By the way, he was talking about his favorite art piece, which are these two we are showing right now. Please go ahead.
Yeah. So this one's called Ignorance is Bliss. So the idea is often the more you know, the more problems you have. Also the idea is that ignorance is one of the most powerful tools out there, and unfortunately a lot of people seem to be happy being ignorant. I don't know whether it's a good thing or a bad thing yet.
when you work on each piece, how do you, like each of the piece, how do you get inspired for that particular? Is it something that happened during?
Well, yeah, it's normally stuff I read. Say I don't have a television, so I tend to read a lot. So like, this one was inspired because I don't have a television, and I was at a friend's place, and this commercial kept running over and over again. I mean, I'm English, so we don't advertise pharmaceuticals, and this was a commercial for something called Abilify. which, if you don't know what it is, it's an antidepressant you take on top of your antidepressant in case you're not quite happy enough. Which sounds insane. It sounds really crazy. If you're not happy enough with your medication, you don't take another pill on top. So I'm strange. So I thought this was a joke commercial. So I Googled it. It's owned by Pfizer. So I was online randomly reading these weird marketing reports on antidepressants. And one of them was about Japan. Apparently it's a big market these days. And in this report it had the most beautiful but evil line. It said they just don't know they're depressed yet. Which I thought was fantastic. I'm like, wow. I'm like, that's evil. It's genius, but evil. So the idea behind the piece, it's Gene Kelly from Singing in the Rain. He has a beautiful look of ecstasy on one of the screenshots.
Right, yeah.
So the idea is you're not going to be happy all the time. And if anyone tells you you are, they're selling you an antidepressant. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying you should be miserable. That's not what I'm saying, but I'm saying if you expect to grin from ear to ear and bounce off the walls 24/7, it's a mask. It's not being real. And obviously the rain's meant to be emotion. Trying to shield yourself from emotion just so you can be happy all the time is not really living, in my opinion.
And the cupcake piece somebody likes a lot. Are all these available on your website?
Yes, all available on my website.
And
this one's called Cupcake Addict. It actually came around because one of my friends told me, Neal, everything you do is dark. There's a lot of people killing themselves. You should be doing commercial stuff like Love Hearts and Cupcakes. Obviously, I told him to take a long walk off a short pier. Now it's actually, let me see what I can do with a cupcake. So obviously it has the heroin reference with a cupcake. I think it was an article I read about they've proven that sugar can hit the same receptors in the brain as heroin or cocaine. Sugar's a very, very addictive substance.
So somebody is asking, why did you paint the Campbell soup can?
Oh, the Monsanto. It's Monsanto is one of the most evil companies in the world. And I wanted to do a piece basically highlighting how, like, most countries nowadays in developed nations have either you have to legally label it has GMOs on it, or they banned them. Like Australia has banned GMOs countrywide. You cannot bring GMOs into it. Oh, really? They have a simple rule, which is you have to prove it's safe, not we have to prove it's not safe. Which I think is a better way to go than just letting everyone eat it and then see what happens. So.
By the way, for anybody who is joining the broadcast or Periscope session, you can find Neal's work at badartsinc.com. Why are all the photos so dark, or paintings?
I have a dark sense of humor, but that doesn't mean I'm unhappy. A friend once told me is what offends most I find funny, which is why I'm happier the most.
Yeah, somebody's saying it's art, dude.
Well, no, I say that it's the irony of life, which is often the darker side of life, which I find funny.
How often do you paint a new one?
Once a month is the idea. I'm working on a religious piece at the moment. The trick is you've got to include something which people want to look at every day. There's loads of serious subjects you can do, but people don't want to look at it every day. So you've got to make it either have a sense of humor or be bright or something people want to see. The church piece I'm working on next is going to be a tagged up background, then some stained glass windows. Then it's going to be a church on top of it, and you can see through the windows to the graffiti behind, and it's going to have the words, "You can't prove a negative." The idea being the foundation of religion is you can never prove God doesn't exist.
Is it all hand painted or print or
spray painted? Every single piece is hand sprayed stencil.
Hand sprayed stencil.
So yeah, so I do reproduce them, but they're all, let's say, limited edition, numbered and signed when I sell them.
Somebody said they like the evolution one.
Thank you. Yeah, that one came around because it's actually on my business card as well. That one came around because one of my friends described himself as old school poor, meaning skinny. And I'm like, that's a brilliant phrase. So let's say most of the stuff is either something inspired by something I read, something I hear, and then you try and make it into sort of visualize that idea.
Yeah.
Can we look? How did the McDonald's one come about?
I just wanted to. It's called a Happy Meal. There's no other company out there which markets at children so aggressively with something which is so addictive. The trifecta of salt, fat and sugar have already proven to be extremely addictive. And the idea I wanted to play with the cigarette thing is it's the idea like, if I had a child, I could feed them McDonald's until they have diabetes and they're 300 pounds and no one would seem to do anything. But if I gave a cigarette to a child, people would be outraged. So it's sort of like a weird double standard.
This is really good. So do you do a lot of shows? Or you do a lot
Yeah. I say I'm based in LA, so I always have my weekend shows at the Melrose Trading Post, which I do on Sundays, and I do the Venice Boardwalk on normally Fridays and Saturdays. I do the Downtown Art Walk in LA. I do the first Friday in Vegas, and I come up here for this show once a month as well.
What artists do you like?
Obviously, Banksy is one of my one of the people I follow. I mean, he is. Until you start doing this art, you don't realize how hard it is to get such a complicated idea in a simple format. And I think why Banksy is because, as I say, he brought art to people who normally don't consider thinking about art. Most arts, you seem to be like, why did the artist do 3 dots in the corner and the curve and this line here, and they come up with all these bullshit around it, rather than the artist going, they look good. He managed to actually bring art to the general masses with really complicated ideas in a very, very simple format. And also because it's just an image, it crosses language barriers as well. So he's a huge, I'm a huge fan of his work. A lot of the street artists, say Elis, Dolk, David Cho, I'm a massive David Cho fan. So yeah, they're my main influences.
These are some amazing art pieces.
So these are all photographs. So this is how I started. I say I do street art photography, and I've done it for years. And I started in Venice selling
and
some
those
of
are
these.
the ones you're selling most pieces? Like these are the most selling?
What's the cost of these?
These I don't sell on the website. I just sell these in person. They're 1 for 20 or 2 for 30. So this is how I sort of started in the photography doing this, and then someone asked me for one of these bigger. It was actually the Panda. Most people think it's a Banksy, and it's actually not. Someone asked for that bigger and bigger, and my printer can't print on the 24 by 36, so I hand cut a stencil and spray painted it for them, and that's sort of what got me into stenciling.
Sorry, the lifestyle you ordered is coming out of.
Yeah, that was a Banksy piece originally done outside the Blackpool Tunnel in South London.
Peter, this was the one which I was saying.
That's LA,
what you like?
yeah, an LA-based street artist called 2020.
Are there anything worth?
Okay.
Oh, there's a few. Yeah, of course. A simple version of how entertainment has changed. It used to be, it was originally going to be called Throwing Themselves to the Lions, and now reality TV. But the bigger version behind it is the Romans built the Colosseum when they knew they were a crumbling empire to distract the masses, and America has reality television.
Oh, so you've been working since 2008, right?
Yeah. I say this one's going to be fun.
Have you found your work evolved over time?
Yeah.
Like, is it different themes or different types?
Well, it's getting more complicated. The first pieces I did were like the TV head single layer, and this one's called A Quick Divorce. Look at me. So you can see the single layer, more basic ones, and that's a 15-layer stencil I finished a couple of months ago. One of the most complicated pieces I did was a Superman. It's not complicated because of the amount. It's only 8 or 9 layers. But the order of the layers, because you do the brown layer, then you spray the white layer, then you do a different layer, and you realise later on the brown layer goes over another colour you should have done. So this actually took me 2 weeks of actually plotting out which colours, the order of the colours, to make it happen.
And how did
the story behind this one is, it started out as a sketch. I just wanted to do something with Superman burning someone's face off. Because I'm a huge Marvel fan and I'm a huge comic book fan. Superman has the most powers, and he's probably one of the most greatest superheroes, but he's one of the lamest characters. Like, Batman has nothing, but Batman's cool.
Exactly.
So I just wanted to do something with Superman just burning someone's face off. It was originally going to be like a burglar coming out of a house. Superman had a long day, so he just flew by, just burnt his face off rather than arresting him. But I like the political stuff, so I wanted to add a political angle. This is a very famous poster from the 1950s, celebrating the boom era of the 1950s in America. The idea is that boom era of the 1950s is gone, and it's never coming back to America. I don't care how Republican you are, it's not coming back. And even if Superman was around, he wouldn't give a fuck, excuse my language. So that's the idea. It's called Waiting for Superman. It's like the middle classes are being really hammered hard at the moment, and waiting for superheroes is not going to help.
I see.
And the last one, the police.
It's policy. I never say police.
Okay.
I've actually just made a custom one of those for someone who works in the LAPD. You've got to have a good sense of humour for a cop these days. I say as I was explaining to him, it's with especially the stuff going on at the moment. There's a 99% of the policemen out there are amazing people who do fantastic work.
I completely agree with you.
And in my opinion, the problem is they don't come down harsh enough on the bad apples in the cops. And even some of my police friends have said the same, that it's the bad apples which are tarnishing the whole police force. And the actual policeman I've spoken to actually said the same. They believe that there was that example of that dude everyone saw on YouTube running away, got shot in the back.
Yes.
He should be tried as a civilian for murder.
Exactly.
But it's not. The police try and protect their own, which I agree to a point, but that actually tarnishes the whole police force with a bad brush. So the idea is it's fuck the policy.
Which is very unfortunate, yes.
And it's also fuck the police. I say it's the policy. Even some of the policemen agree that they really need to get rid of these bad apples, because until the community and the police work together, they can't do their job.
Cool. So again, one more time. So this is called bad art.